11 of Daryl Show Your Work. All right, and in this episode, we'll be using the free open source vulnerability scanner, OpenVas, to do some credential scanning on a machine, and we're going to be scanning port 22 SSH to look for any sort of vulnerabilities. So to get started, I'm going to open up my web browser. All right. I'm going to go into where we have the scanner located. Just provides. Let's add an S here. So since we're going to a secured session, all right. So put in my credentials here. All right. So in order for us to start a new scan, first we have to configure the OpenVas scanner and to tell it what is it that we want to scan and how we want to scan it. So since we're doing a credential scan, we're going to go to configurations and then credentials. All right. And so in order to begin to add these credentials, we're going to go all the way to the left here to this blue star icon. All right. And then we're going to name this credentials SSH credentials. All right. And then let's see, what do we want to comment here? We'll just do something as simple as let's say SSH credentials for target vulnerable host. All right, so since we called it that here, the target that here, we're going to name it that once we enter in the target information. All right, so because we're doing a credential scan, we're going to use username and password. We already know that what the username and password up front is. So this would be considered a white box penetration test where we're given all the information about what the system that we're scanning up front. Where a gray box penetration test or vulnerability assessment would be where we're given some of the information, but not all. And then a black box vulnerability assessment is where we're given no information, and we pretty much have to go in and just start scanning things, looking for things randomly into the system. So, but fortunately for us, for this lab, we're doing a white box uh, vulnerability assessment. So I'm going to enter in my credentials here. All right, so once I have that in, I'm gonna hit create. All right, so you see that that's the details for that has been entered here into the credentials. All right, next thing we have to tell OpenVas, we're gonna go back to configuration and we're going to give it our target information, the target system that we're going to scan. So to do that, once I'm into this screen, the target screen, I'm gonna go back to the blue box again. I'm gonna click it. All right, now I have to enter in some information for this. So I'm going to name this, what do we call it? Vulnerable host. So as promised, I'm gonna name it that. All right, and then the target IP address that we're going to run this on, where our target is located, is 192.168.1.100. All right, and right here, as far as the ports that we're going to scan, we're going to do SSH, and then since it's credential, we're going to choose the SSH credentials. All right, so we already have port 22 entered in here already. So everything else we're going to leave default. I'm going to hit create. All right, then the next set of information I have to give OpenVas is how it is we want to scan this and the scanning information. So I'm gonna go to scan and then tasks. All right, then I'm gonna hit on this blue box again, and then I'm gonna go to new task. All right, and let's see, we're going to name this first scan. All right, and then let's see, details for this. Just going to put conducting a scan on host vulnerable host. All right, and then I'm gonna set the target to vulnerable host. Everything else should be set to the default, so I'm gonna hit create. All right, so here's our scan, first scan. So in order to start it, I'm going to hit this play button all the way to the right, this green play button. I'm gonna click that to start it. All right, so when it's starting, it's going to give us a status of requested. And every so often to see the progress of it, we actually have to refresh the screen in order to see the progress. Now this scan actually takes a very long time. So instead of having us sitting here on video, watching paint dry, waiting for the scan to finish, I've already did it preliminarily before started this video. So I gave this scan the same details that I gave the one we just put together, so we could just skip to observing the results. But we'll come back to first scan at the end of this video just to see where it is. All right, so this is the result of the scan that we're conducting. So I'm gonna click sample scan. All right. In fact, in order to get better, let me see, to get better results, I'm gonna go back up here to scan. I'm gonna go to results here. All right, so this is actually the results for that scan that I ran before, and the same one that I'm running now. So we actually got a high severity feedback for for um for its for the this SSH ports vulnerability to SSH brute force logins with the default credentials reporting. All right, we're gonna click on that, and just to view some details of that. So this is where we would go in, and we would see the details of that. And as you can see, this is indicating that this is the default credentials here, which we did use. So that's why it came up here as high, because of course we use the default credentials to conduct this scan, and that's the default credentials to enter into the SSH into this machine. Okay, so then I'm gonna go to back to scans, and I'm gonna go to reports. All right, so this gives us the full, and this is showing us the current progress of our current scan right now, which is it's 32% complete. So I'm gonna click on this, the date and time here of the first scan that I ran before we started the video. All right, and so it's actually coming back, giving us two vulnerabilities. The second vulnerability is relatively low. It's TCP timestamps. We click on that, and this gives us a breakdown of that vulnerability and all the details. And with these vulnerabilities, we would give this to whoever the client is, whether it's our direct employer or we're contracted to do this. We would give them the results, and they would have to judge on their own. Hey, based upon the report, how do we prioritize, what do we patch first, or what do we mitigate first in terms of addressing the holes in their attack surface. All right, so The next thing we can do, we can let's try to verify these results by going to the terminal and doing some things on the command line. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to try to start an SSH session. All right, so I'm saying SSH. Now I'm doing msfadmin. We know that's the user, and then we're going to say at, and we know the name of our machine is that vulnerable host. We're just going to put that name there, even though we know what the IP address is. It'll take us to the same place. All right, I'm say yes. All right, then I have to give it my password, which we know is msfadmin, which is the default credentials. All right, and as you can see, it logged me in. So that that kind of proves what it was saying. So I'm gonna do a list command. All right, so we're gonna use a shell script called linpeas, and what linpeas does, it'll tell us the likelihood of a privileged escalation vector. So it's color coded, and when I pull it up here, it's going to give us a legend of how to read its output. So I'm going to run linpeas here. Hold on. All right. So when I do period backslash here, that's me telling Linux to execute a program or a command. So I'm telling it to execute linp's shell script. All right, and it's booting that up for us. All right, just wait for it. While it's doing that, I could go back up and okay. So here's the color coded legend. So if the results come back and they're with red font and the yellow background, it means that there's a 95% vulnerable vector. So that means that vulnerable attack vector. That means that there's the vulnerability. There's a 95% chance that that privileged escalation attack vector is present. And now, if the font is just red, it means you should take a look. You should take a look at whatever is highlighted in red. Light cyan means users with a console. Blue means users without a console and mounted DEVs, DVSs, and green means common things such as users, groups. UIDs, SGIDs, mounts, shell scripts, cron jobs, which are scheduled jobs, things of that nature, like normal things, nothing things that are fairly benign. And then light magenta is our username. All right, so we're going to scroll through here and we're going to see if we could try to find anything that at least I have a feeling we're going to find some things that are red. But let's see if we can find any anything with red font and yellow backgrounds. All right, so far we see a little bit of red. So we see some CVE numbers here. So hold on, okay, there we go. And then let me increase the font on this for us to help us see a little better. Let's see. Let's see. Space. Okay, I don't want to spend too much time on this trying to. So I'll highlight anything that, to save us some time, I'll just highlight anything that we find that may be of interest. So to scroll in here to see some directories, so it's giving us some privilege escalation directories, related directories that we should take a look at here in red, but nothing that's outright, so far outright red on top of yellow. So so this is just to get us familiar with LMPs, not necessarily, trying to find the exact privilege escalation attack vector here. If we do, great. If we don't, that's fine, because we've already found basically the primary vulnerability that we were looking for is basically that default, using those default credentials to log in. So far it doesn't look like we found anything that's 95% indicative of a privilege escalation vulnerability, which is great, but probably we would probably want to look into some of these red areas, just to kind of do some research and make sure that there's not some other type of vulnerabilities going on. All right, so we're going to go back to our scanner here just to see where we are with the scan, even though I preliminarily took care of that for us. Go back here to reports. And it's not actually 98% complete, but again, I say this a lot of time because we just would have been sitting here in silence, waiting for paint to dry, waiting for this 98% to turn into 100%, or to even get this far. So that's pretty much the end of the demo. That's a pretty simple, straightforward vulnerability scan. Again, we were scanning port 22, which is SSH, looking for any sort of vulnerabilities to a machine running at, and we found a very high severity um, of us using default credentials of a username and password, which is something that a basic thing you want to do anytime you're running a service. You want to change the default credentials to something a little more harder to figure out to harden your attack surface. So make sure to like, subscribe, and share, and most importantly, to show your work. And until next time, take care of yourself, and God bless.